Do the Evolution. Here's the thing about this video is I know everyone likes it for the animation and the visuals, and I will talk about that. I'm not talking about other things. I'm not actually a big Pearl Jam fan. I do like their two kind of big videos, which would be Jeremy and Do the Evolution. And as a kid, anytime those came on, I would stop what I was doing and watch them. They're just like such great little short films of music videos. They did such a great job. But Pearl Jam was never a band like I have 10. That's like it. I never really represented a lot to me. Like Nirvana was a big band for me, and Soundgarden, but Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains never really did it for me. I have nothing against them really. But basically, Pearl Jam hadn't made a video since 1992. They chose not to. And so this was their big return to music videos, actually. 6 years after their last video was Oceans. However, almost every press coverage I remember at the time was basically like they're following up Jeremy. And that's how I felt. I was like, oh, they're following up Jeremy. Because Jeremy sort of was the end statement. They still played it a lot, actually, in the 90s. Like, it was like this epic video. Like, everyone knew it. Even though it had been 6 years, it still, like, was everywhere. It was this big statement of a video. So, in my mind, it makes sense that they release a video that was this big of a statement 6 years later with Do the Evolution. Now, this is mostly credited, and most people go, oh, it's directed by Todd McFarlane. Now, Todd McFarlane was having a really great 1998, which is when this came out. The Korn album, Follow the Leader, which he did design the cover art for, came out. Freak on a Leash came out. If it came out in 98, it was after this, but it was mostly a hit in 99. And he had the Spawn show, was still on HBO, which I need to watch. This was actually directed by a director of Batman the Animated Series, who also did storyboards for Batman Mask of the Phantasm, who was very involved in the animated series, Kevin Altieri. As well as with Todd McFarlane, which is interesting. I didn't know that. And when you look at the dancing woman who's supposed to represent death, it's pretty obvious that he worked on Batman the Animated Series. You know, the thing with this video is it kind of comes on when it started. The other thing is everyone knew a new Pearl Jam video was happening. It was actually a big deal because they hadn't done one in 6 years. I assumed it was going to be a performance video, which I also learned researching this, that I thought Pearl Jam made the videos for 10, which are like the regular amount of videos you make for an album, like 4 or 5 or something. And then they made this, and that was it. Apparently in the 2000s, they made like a ton of music videos. I did not know that until I didn't watch them all. They were just like performance videos, which is like, in my mind, those videos are kind of boring. There's like very few performance videos that are like interesting. Although that one, Linkin Park one that Mark Romanek directed, that one, I don't even like Linkin Park, and that's with the shadows, that's a pretty good one. But basically what the idea of Do the Evolution is, you kind of go through the history of man and humanity, all the changes and everything that happened with that through you see particularly like people jumping out of windows because of the stock market crash. You see, man fighting as basically like, as ape or apes fighting, pre-evolution. You see, the Roman Empire, you see Native Americans being basically like covered with smallpox blankets. You see like all these like horrible, crazy atrocities of life and things like that. And this got played a lot actually on MTV. And then you see the future, how horrific it will be, and how like humans are made through machines and like all this crazy stuff. You see World War II, you see all this combating you at once, and you kind of see the crazy, the progress of man, but you also see the fault in that progress and the kind of evil terribleness in that progress at the same time. This is sort of like an 8th grade kind of like statement on man and humanity a lot of the time, but I will say one thing about that is that when I watch it, I'm incredibly compelled by it, by also going like, oh, it's like just like giving you kind of quick cuts and everything, being very cynical, but at the same time, like I don't like disagree with it. It's not like I don't really like disagree with what is going on here. It's like, it's like it is very cynical about humanity. It does show the evil of man. It's not like lying about anything really. It plays in this like great visual way where it's like playing with like the idea of like death and like humanity's like basically like rips itself apart in the name of progress. The blood, the idea that humanity is basically built on the backs of like blood and exploitation and money and power and ego and things like that. And it just like feels like really awful. And it's kind of crazy, like at the time in Do the Evolution with this video, like not having Pearl Jam even in it. And I also have to say, this is in 1998. Fall of 1998 is before the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC really hit. Like 98, like the beginning of 98, that school year, it was my freshman year of high school actually, alternative bands were still big. Like NSYNC was rising. By like Christmas, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC had sort of taken over. They were still building, but then when they became like when Backstreet Boys Millennium, I think, came out towards the end of my freshman year of high school, and then it was sort of over. Like that was kind of hitting it. And so like this video, I think, couldn't have been the hit it was, despite like Pearl Jam and all the hype behind them finally having another video. Could not have been played as much as it was without it coming out when it did, because it was kind of the last gasp of alternative. It was like the last breath of alternative before they like really switched away from it. That kind of helped with it, because they kind of sort of had to play it, because it was kind of not sure where the new stars were. It was like, well, Korn's coming up, well, we see the rap rock stuff, well, we know the boy bands, but they weren't like showing the numbers they would very shortly. Britney, I think, would happen towards the end of this year, of 1998. Maybe this video is simplistic in certain ways. Maybe it is going over the things, but it is hell of a compelling thing. And I watched it twice before this, and each time I was like, yeah, it is a little silly. And like, I do like that shot when the guitar solo and the girls dancing is like with the cuts and everything. That is really cool. Like the way that's animated and everything. Because one thing about Death is like, this is a very like highly hyper sexualized time in music videos. And her dance isn't like, I wouldn't say that hypersexual. It's more just like cool and based on movement and flashing and everything like that. And it's really like I don't know, a lot of this is more pieces of art, because the animation was like pretty top level at the time. I know they do like some cheats and some things like that, but the design, like all, like the other thing is like there are so many shots in this and they're not the same, so they had to redraw completely everything. Like if you know anything about animation, how drawing works, like when they have to redraw the sets, they have to redraw the characters. There's like some similarities and they do cut back to things, but this looks like months of work to do the statement. They do some World War I stuff, which a lot of people say is a reference to the famous short Peace on Earth, which is an amazing short if you've never seen it. I have not found it like an actual source on that, but I would say, why not? Let's go with it. I think this is a pretty substantial music video. If this was like their last music video and a statement to come back on, like, holy shit, it definitely was. It was like, whoa, what the fuck? And if this was like the last great alternative music video of the 90s, which that might actually be true, then so be it, because I think it launches you with the thought of like the idea of man and all the evil they've done, the wonder of progress, but also the evil that it creates through that progress, which I think is just like, goddamn, I don't know. It's like, I get when people see this video and they roll their eyes, but it's kind of hard at the end to not be like, but that was quite an achievement and a statement, and you kind of just sit back and go, shit.